Good afternoon. Happy Friday, everyone. Thank you for joining us for NYSAPLS Young Professionals Committee discussion on challenges for land surveyors and the solutions to our complaining. Before we get started, I want to go over a couple of items. Similar to our webinar process, we cannot hear you, but you should hear us. So using your GoToWebinar dashboard, let's do a quick sound check and use the raise your hand button if you can hear me. Okay, and while we wait for some hands to go up, if you have any questions during the time of the program, please use your question box on your dashboard to type and send in your questions. The committee will address them as needed or at the end of the presentation. I don't see a lot of hands up, so I want to make sure you guys can hear me. So there we go. All right. So now I see that your hands are up and it looks like we're good to go. So I'm going to turn everything over to today's host, YP committee member Keith Burley. Hi, Keith.
Thank you, Heather. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining us for today's May webcast with the Young Professionals Committee. It's going to be a fun discussion. A bunch of us just attended the strategic planning retreat, and I'm kind of going to go with that structure of a discussion today of a free-for-all to hear your perspectives, your opinions. So the attendees, please, if you have any suggestions, opinions, or perspectives, throw it in the chat and we'll do our absolute best to address that and get your voice heard there. I'm Keith Burley from Canandaigua, New York, works for March Engineering. Been on the YP committee since 2017 and looking forward to today's webcast. We're going to go through our introductions of the rest of the YP committee we have today, starting with Ashley.
Hi, I'm Ashley Metz. I'm here in Clifton Park, New York. I'm from MJ Engineering and Land Surveying, and I've been here with the Young Professionals since 2019.
I'm Jason Graff, the Executive Vice President of GDB Geospatial. My office is down on Long Island. I'm a YP committee member and the chairperson of the Legislative Committee for NYSAPLS.
Go ahead, Jackie.
Hi, everybody. Coming to you live from the truck sauna out in the field, getting up to a balmy 87 degrees today. I'm coming up on about a month tenure here with the Young Professionals Committee, so new kid on the block. Been surveying since age 15, came into the profession looking for a way to spend more time with the old man, who's also a surveyor, so I'm second generation. And I work for about a 6-man team based in Ithaca, New York. Happy to be with everyone today.
Thank you, Jackie. Thank you, everyone. So today we're going to discuss 3 different topics to start out. And it's basically all the things that we as surveyors complain about. And I kind of had the idea of, we always hear all of our colleagues complain about a few things here and there, whether it's at the conference or a meeting or at your local establishment. And today I wanted to really have a discussion of how we can solve these problems, how we can come up with ideas as professionals to these things that we see as challenges throughout our community, throughout our everyday interactions with clients and ourselves as professions. So we're going to go over 3 main topics here: the current New York State education laws, the constant decline and lack of growth in our profession, and also the lack of diversity in our profession. We're going to start out with the New York State education laws. I'm in the process of doing my survey license application right now. So this is at the forefront of what I'm going through. In the last couple of months, I've found that these things are changing and the information isn't always easy to find of what exactly you need to do to become licensed and the path you can take. Jackie and I attended the New York State Specific Review course in Saratoga, Malta this year, and she brought to my attention this fancy chart that you can see on your screen. Through digging for about an hour and a half, I found this on the New York State Education website. This is the most clear and concise outline of your options to get licensed in New York State. We can send this out as an email, I believe, to anyone that would like it, but you can find on the New York State Ed's website. This has changed dramatically since I started in 2016, and it outlines 4 major pathways to licensure, and when you can sit for the FS exam, when you can sit for the PE in New York State specific. So I won't go through it in detail, but out of all the research I've done and with the help of Jackie, this is really the best explanation of what you really have to do and what to expect under the new education laws. Right now on New York State Ed's website, there's 3 different sections that give you 3 different sections of really different information on what you need. This is the most current, this is the easiest that I have found. I would really strongly suggest referring to this chart moving forward for those folks that are going through the application process and also going through the process of becoming licensed. Jackie, do you want to talk a little bit about how you found this and your perspective on how these things have changed?
Sure. This was sort of a stumble upon exercise while I was preparing my November submission for licensure. I just sat for the rest of my examination within the last month. And it really surprised me that I didn't hear through the grapevine of any kind that the statute on this was changing. And my understanding is that effective, I think it was April 3rd or so this year, 2022, if an employee starts after that date, then this now applies. Anyone who began their career in surveying before that date, my understanding is the experience only pathway to licensure is still valid for them. And this sort of came into our firm. We just hired a new technician who has a degree not in surveying. And a great sign was 2 weeks after he started working for us, he came to me and asked if I thought his degree would apply to licensure. So great to, encouraging that he's even considering that already so early on. Luckily, his degree is actually in mathematics. So that was an easy answer. But looking in the 3rd and 4th row of this table, there is some interpretation certainly of what a related science is. Certainly geology would probably be a good candidate, as there are geologists on the Board of Ed. But other sciences, I think we'll just have to see how the Board of Ed releases more information on this as the statute takes effect for new licensees, and what other information sort of comes to light. But the thing that I like about this structure is there is an incentive for a 4-year ABET degree. There's also an incentive for a 2-year ABET degree. And I think we all understand that our ABET programs are struggling both in numbers for enrollees and also for instructors. So I think that this is hopefully going to help bolster those programs and provide a little bit more in terms of interest. And for young professionals and for people trying to attract other young professionals to this field, this to me really begs our involvement in high schools even more, because we sort of need to start attracting folks before they decide what sort of degree they're going to pursue. Because if your dad's not a surveyor, you probably haven't heard of it. So getting the word out early, I think, is even more important. And just knowing that you can get to that licensed status an entire year earlier by having a 4-year ABET degree, or even 6 months earlier with a 2-year degree, I think is an asset and is quite a nice feature of this. And overall, I think the goal is to just have better, more educated surveyors out there serving the public. So hopefully that's what this accomplishes over time. And I think there certainly are the skeptics out there, and part of me lives in that world as well, that thinks, well, we're already struggling to even get people licensed. Is this going to make it harder and actually decrease and contribute to further decline of numbers of new surveyors? But I think it remains to be seen what the long-term effects are going to be, and we'll just have to ride it out and see what happens, Keith.
Thank you, Jackie. Jason, I'm going to ask you a quick question. Your communications with the board, have you had any communications with them about these associated degrees that they will accept to the effect of getting your license that we see in this chart?
So we're really just starting to see how the board is interpreting these the new law. And as I've been on the chairperson of the legislative committee for a few years now, it probably took 3 years to figure out how a bill becomes a law, and like that's the easy part almost, because the laws are written fairly vague on purpose. Then there's all these rules and regulations that could get put in place that kind of get into the nitty gritty of what do you mean 15 credits in surveying courses, and does that geology degree count at all? My partner has a geology degree, and when she applied for her all experience route years and years ago, they told her her geology degree was worth 0. Has that changed now that geologists have licenses? We're really only starting to see how the board is interpreting these things. And in fact, we've heard from a couple young surveyors that the board is interpreting things a little bit differently than we expected them to. So we're just really starting our dialogue with the board to get a sense of where they're coming from. We were told by one member of NYSAPLS that the 15 credits he has were not going towards a land surveying degree, so they didn't count at all, even though they were land surveying related courses. So we're just trying to start our communication with the board, and the board has also had some turnover. Jane Blair, the longtime secretary, retired during COVID. Her new permanent replacement has just been appointed, and I have yet to meet that person. So we're gonna talk to them and hopefully get some more information out. But Jackie is right though that this does really only affect surveyors who got into the profession just early this year. If you have 1 hour of experience in 2021, you can still go all experience. I'm an all experience guy, so I like that. I'm kind of sad to see this go this way. For this to be successful though, because we've already lost 1 2-year accredited degree since this law came into effect. I really think you hit the nail on the head saying we've got to get into these schools a lot earlier. I have a 12-year-old and a 15-year-old. They have no idea what land surveying is. So I'm not doing a great job either, I guess. They don't want to follow in dad's footsteps. But we have to get into these schools early, middle schools, early high schools, career fairs, STEM career fairs. I know there's a couple high schools on Long Island that do like a STEM specific career fair. Got to put the work in, or these programs like Alfred and Ranger School they're going to go from graduating 8 kids a year, 10 kids a year to 0. There's no financial reason for the schools to keep the programs open if they're only putting 5 or 6 kids through.
Thank you, Jason. I appreciate it. Ashley, has this affected you at all, or affected anyone at your company that you see as becoming possible licensed moving forward?
I am the youngest person at my organization that has expressed an interest in becoming a land surveyor, recently at least. And we've recently had somebody go through and take all their tests and become licensed. So it hasn't impacted any of us, but it certainly has impacted me because of all the reasons that you guys have mentioned that, here at the Young Professionals Committee, our whole drive is to get more people into the profession. And it's made our whole pitch significantly harder. It's not to say that it's not impossible, because there's certainly aspects that we can, pull on to get people into the profession, but it certainly made it more difficult to say, hey, you've decided to change careers, but you're going to have to go back to college if you want to become a licensed land surveyor. So not impossible, but just a little bit more difficult. I did have a question for Jason, however.
Go for it.
The people who are becoming licensed who started working before that April date, do they have an unlimited amount of time, or is it the 8 years that they have to get licensed?
Oh, I believe it's unlimited. Like whether it takes you 8 or 10 years, and if you apply in 8 years and they say, hey, we want you to get another year of boundary experience, you told us you spent a year on a layout crew, that doesn't count. Reapply in a year. Because you started your career before this went into effect, I'm pretty sure you can continue that all experience route.
Very good.
I don't know if there's a sunset clause on it. I know there when Jersey started requiring 4-year degrees, there was a timeline that said you can apply for reciprocity or get your Jersey license without the degree to a point, and then eventually they said, okay, we're done.
Yeah.
You had 10 years to figure this out. You haven't done it. We've
Right. That was something that I had wondered about.
Thank you, guys. So we kind of spoke about the challenges we face with these laws that have changed recently and are going to affect a lot of people coming into this. But I kind of want to build on what Jason said, that we have to get to these young people. We have to get in the schools. You know, I see a solution to these challenges as far as education laws is us being professionals, us getting into these schools, talking to kids, talking to teachers, and really kind of trying to change the game for us. I do see the perspective that this new law requiring at least a 2-year degree or a 4-year degree can elevate us as professionals as an entire field. And as well, to build a little bit on what all of you guys have said is we can't have surveyors without a 4-year degree, and these programs are almost getting smaller by the year. They're a little bit bigger this year. So I do see that we can't have these programs without kids in the programs, right? So these laws changing, the 2-year and 4-year degree, it's going to make these students go, or young professionals, or just somebody getting in the field like I did, have to go back to school, which is going to put people in these programs at any school, whether it's in New York State or out of state, and give those kids a program to have and to build upon. We all know that schools are a business in a sort, and if they don't have those students, that those programs are not going to be around for much longer. So I do see a solution to our problem here with these changing laws is it is going to force people in a way to get into those programs, so those programs can grow, they can thrive, they can continue. Programs like Alfred and Ranger School and others out of the state. So I do see it as a challenge, but I also see it as an opportunity. I think it's really going to fall to us to get the word out there, to really do our part as professions in outreach, whether it's in your local school, your local community, just going and talking to kids whenever you get the chance. Like, hey, this is what I do for a living. You might want to check it out. Because that's exactly how I got into it. It was just a conversation at a family party. So it definitely is a challenge, but I see it as a really big opportunity to get more people involved. And perhaps this is the push we need as professionals to make that happen. So in 10 years, Ashley and myself and Jackie have people to hire and don't have to worry about that.
There's no shortage of kids going to college, right?
Right.
And you know, there's an argument that there's too many kids going to college, but it's very much expected that when you graduate high school, you're going to go to college. So we have to get in there and make this an option for them. It's not crazy for someone from Long Island to go to school in Rochester. I went to school near DC, 5 hours away. It was not crazy. So we just need people to find these degree programs before they're in the workforce.
So I think we'll move on now. We kind of went over that to the kind of degree I was looking for that. So going on to number 2, and this is kind of a good segue to the constant decline and lack of growth within our profession. We all know about it. We all talk about it. It's at every conference. It's at every discussion we ever talk about. And just to build upon what Jason just talked about, it's a challenge we all face. Do know that people are attending. We are working on this. We're working on it as an association. We're working on it as a YP committee. There's a lot of good discussions out there of what we can do to outreach to these young people, to people as associate members within NYSAPLS to get out and get a degree. We have a great thing going with Jason Peterson. He couldn't be on here today, but he just went out to a career fair at Fort Drum to outreach to soldiers that are transitioning from military to civilian life to try to get that as an avenue for certain new surveyors using their background in military to transition to perhaps a degree and career in surveying. So that's something that we're constantly working on right now. That's growing. We're working on a shadow program, a pilot shadow program to get kids involved at the high school level through the New York State Technical Center. So that's something we're working on. And then, as you all know, we do our best to get into the career fairs at schools, at colleges. So we are doing our best to work at that. Jason, what do you guys do as a company, as individuals, to do outreach within your community in Long Island?
Thank you. I'm going to get to that one second. I just wanted to say we did follow up, and you have until April 3rd, 2029 to apply for your all experience route. So they're giving you 8 years from the effective date of the law.
Thank you.
Which for some people right on the cusp is going to be tight. So it's an important date to know. But you know, I don't do a lot of outreach other than participating in NYSAPLS. That's been our company's commitment to the profession, and the local regional. Like when we have Surveyors Week down here, we try to participate best we can. We've flown drones while we're sitting on NGS monuments so that we can get, you know, something in some media outlet, something a local town or county declaring Surveyors Week or something like that. But it's not particularly grassroots, and I think maybe there should be maybe we need help down here. I don't know. Maybe all surveyors need a little bit of guidance. Surveyors Week comes around and you go, I don't know. And I know NSPS puts out that great packet of things to do, but sometimes it turns into, I just sent a crew to sit on an NGS monument for them, lost a day of work, and I don't know if that really helped the profession in any meaningful way. But our focus to giving back to the profession starts with NYSAPLS and its regionals.
How about you, Ashley? Have you done any, or anyone in your company done any school visits or career fairs, anything like that?
Actually, it's very similar to Jason's approach that we've taken. Certainly, since I've been paired with NYSAPLS and the young professionals, they've supported pretty much everything that I'm looking to do to further the profession, be it the TV interviews that I participated in, or giving me the time to participate in these conversations. But outside of that, we do a college visit up to the Ranger School every year to just expose them to some of the technologies that we have available. Generally, we'll take up a scanner and some LiDAR equipment to just expose them to, you know, the Ranger School teaches everybody the basics, which is good because you need a good firm foundation. But it is exciting to be able to share with them, you know, what else is available when you get out into the real world. So we do try and get out there to expose them to that. But certainly I'm looking forward to seeing how else we can get other people exposed to land surveying.
Thank you. And for the attendees watching, if you don't know, if your company or yourself chooses to go and participate in a high school career fair, community college career fair, NYSAPLS does have resources that they can send to you that you can use at a career fair to help bolster our profession and really get kids to see what we do. There is a school packet that they can send to you and you can take to your local career fair. When we were at the strategic planning retreat last weekend, I heard, and I apologize, I can't remember his name. He had a really good thing that he's doing within high schools is just going and putting survey maps up on the wall in his wife's classroom. And I thought that was really interesting. I've never heard that perspective before. We all know about going and speaking to kids and going to a career fair. But just having those survey maps up on the wall for those students to see and say, hey, what is that? I've never seen that before. And that he said has been a really good way to spark conversation about what surveying is, what the map is. And then he explained to me that it led into conversations of using trig and other math that you learn in school. As myself, I sat in the classroom and I said, Mrs. Frantel, when am I ever going to use this math again? If you look up on the board or on the wall, and there would be a survey map there with bearings and distances on it, and explain to the students that, hey, this is a real world career where you will use this math. The things that you're learning right today in this math lesson is applied right to that map on the wall that you see there. I thought that was a really cool opportunity that he took in his wife's classroom to do that. And he said that he had 6 students, I believe, that went on to the career of land surveying. And it all started with a map on a wall. How easy is that? So it's just little things like that that may be a solution to the lack of growth within our community that's a little bit more original than just going to do your typical career fair or school visit. So I think it'll behoove us to come up with new and original ways to reach out to these kids that doesn't take a lot of time, that doesn't take a lot of time out of the regular teacher's curriculum, doesn't take away from Jason and his crew being productive for a day. It's just little things like that that we need to have discussions about. We need to share that information. I feel fortunate that I just happened to hear that conversation at the planning retreat and a new perspective to do that. So I really hope that us as professionals can get together and share those little small ideas that make a difference. A map being on a wall affected 6 kids, and it might affect them for the rest of their lives. So little things like that that we may all not think about. I would gladly invite you to share things like that. I was surprised by that one. And it's going to be little things like that that don't take a lot of time and resources that may make a greater effect on our profession and the lives of students and their careers moving forward. So I thought that was just really interesting.
Yeah,
lot of us-
Keith, I think another option, in addition to the fact that one map hanging on the wall may have a reach of 6 kids, and that's sort of a passive way to integrate with those students, guidance counselors are another resource to tap. And my guidance counselor is actually the one that encouraged me to apply to Alfred. And I think talking to a guidance counselor and getting them to pick out those skills in students in their high school and say, I think you'd make a great candidate for surveying. Have you ever heard of it? No. Well, hey, I actually have a local surveyor you could talk to in shadow for a day, and sort of use them as a way to reach the students within their high school. And interestingly, my high school actually has an entire semester surveying class for high school students. And each year, someone from our company goes in and does a one-day demo, whether it's a level run or showing them some more new age equipment, and has some face time with the students in that class, rather than targeting the entire school or something of that nature. And I would be curious, people in the chat, do any of you know of a high school class locally where you are, like that is in the high school that I went to? I think that's kind of rare. Another thing I'd love to see in the chat is what you all think of the new legislation and the education law change, whether you're for or against it, or just any thoughts in the chat you feel you want to add would be great.
I think in the past, NYSAPLS has sent their booth to the New York State School Counselors Association meeting. It's it's like NYSAPLS for guidance counselors. It's their association. They had a conference, and we've presented there just to kind of plant the idea in guidance counselors all over the state that this is a profession, and if you the right student who has that mind for math and science, a little bit of history, I think it's such a great profession because it's very diverse in that way, and you can work outside, you can work inside. Ideally, you can do both, and it would be great if there were more people out there in that profession who knew about our profession and could recommend that to the right student.
So Jason, from your perspective at a leadership role within your company, do you think it would be too much to send a packet to your local high schools of just saying, hey, this is us, this is what we do, this is an option, and then we have many NYSAPLS flyers that are out there about becoming a surveyor. Do you think that would be a viable solution to just getting more word out there of just a quick email or letter to the local guidance counselors?
I think it's perfectly viable. And it's not too time consuming. And if you find the right teacher who says, hey, can you come in and talk to my group of students for 30 minutes? It's time well spent.
Yeah, and thank you, Jack. I never really thought about that a lot from the perspective of a guidance counselor. And I say that only because when I reach out to mine, they're like, I don't know what that is, and go speak to somebody else. So I was kind of had a negative experience there. So I appreciate that perspective. And I think that as a company, I really think that it wouldn't be that hard to send out a quick email or letter to the local guidance counselor. We all know that we're all incredibly busy, and any form of outreach takes time, it takes resources, and that's hard for companies when you have to take a crew member out or a leader, a leadership within the community or your company and go out into the community for a day. But if we want this to not be a challenge anymore, we as professionals have to do a better job. I do think reaching out to the guidance counselors, that's a good idea. It wouldn't take too much time. And I do know that there's resources right through NYSAPLS that you can send as well that wouldn't have to come from the company directly too. So
it would be nice if maybe we engage the regionals in some way to organize this effort. Otherwise, we can appear a little bit disorganized. There's a few hundred school districts on Long Island alone. So maybe I do the district where I live or where I grew up or something like that. But that's 2 out of 100 something. If the regionals could prepare something, and then when they get a response, ask membership at the regional level, okay, so-and-so high school wants someone to come in and talk for 30 minutes. Who's going to volunteer to do that? I think we may look pretty good saying we're the local regional representing the State Surveyors Association instead of just MJ or GDB or whoever knocking on doors randomly at high schools. A little more clout there, I think.
Yeah, great suggestion, Jason.
So Jason, maybe we'll put that to our regional members with ourselves and people attending to have that discussion at our regional meetings. I know Ashley is a new regional member with her area. I'm fairly new to Genesee Valley, and that would be a fairly easy conversation. And I don't imagine there'd be much pushback at that regional level. But that's a really good perspective. I just want to quickly touch on, I just see that in the comments here, Greg said that he would volunteer himself to volunteer and go on to talk to math teachers and guidance counselors. And he's retired. And if you guys remember, we talked about that a little bit at the strategic planning about the opportunity for retired professionals to take that time that they may have and go do that. And I think that's an awesome idea. I think it's a great solution to this problem. We have so many people within this community that are passionate about this career that we've chosen, and to have people like Greg do that would be great. If you would like to do that, I would highly recommend, like Jason said, reaching out to your regional director. If you don't have a lot of activity in your regional, reach out to us. Reach out to Heather, and we'll put you in the right hands to get these things done. If we don't know the right people to contact, we will find out the right people to contact in your area to allow that to happen. So Greg, I appreciate you bringing that up. That's a really good solution to that problem. And it's one that NYSAPLS has been speaking about within the last couple of months. So thank you. That would be great for you to do that.
Greg and I are in the same regional, and our new president, Scott Gillis, is on the line rolling his eyes at me. So
Keith, we all had an opportunity to talk about how our company has reached out to schools or colleges. you have a very unique opportunity, and you touched on it really briefly there, just by kind of bringing it up. Do you mind telling us a little bit about the shadow program that you started, and down the road, what you hope to accomplish it with it?
Yeah, so it's a pilot shadow program where it sits right now, and we're in my area. I'm in Ontario County, and I'm working with the Finger Lakes Technical Institute or Technical Center as these high school students go in as juniors and seniors. I'm working with students that are in the construction field, and we started out last year by doing a full half-day demo day with students. We went with a robot and RTK GPS and did a demo day. And then from that, we got a shadow student that came with our company and did a shadow day. We did a title or mortgage or instrument survey or whatever you want to call it in the city of Geneva. She was with us for that. And then she transitioned to a full-blown summer internship. So that is what I'm calling the pilot shadow program, kind of going through those steps from a demo day at a school, whether it's on a job site or at a school, to then transitioning into a shadow day with your field crew. And then if all goes well, transitioning into a summer internship. And the whole goal is to get those students in the shadow day, into the internship, and then perhaps transitioning to Alfred or Ranger School or an out-of-state program. It's been a lot of work. COVID has been very challenging in the aspect of just being able to get in the schools and have the kids be able to come out on jobs. So moving forward, what we're going to do is we're going to have some students actually come out on a job site and do a demo day. Most likely probably be 3 to 4 hours demonstration. And hopefully that will spark interest within that group of kids to come and go through the rest of the program. So the kind of the end goal of this is to have a statewide shadow program to which the technical centers throughout the state can be involved in this, and a local engineering firm, surveying firm will have this packet to which they can follow as they choose and be an avenue or a pathway for these young kids to be involved. The interesting and unique perspective of this is they're not your typical high school students. These are students that are going into trades. They are the kids that are, dirt on their boots, mud on their hands. They want to be outdoors. They don't want to sit in an office. They don't want your typical job that we all know. So it's going after and it's targeting kids that already are kind of in that trade route. And I have found that it's way easier to target those kids rather than your average high schooler that wants to sit inside and be on a computer. So in that sense, it's been way easier to get those kids to interact and get them interested. So I worked with a group of about 35 kids, and I had all of their attention minus like 2. Or when I've talked to other high school groups, half of them are doing one of these and they could care less. So this approach with the Finger Lakes Technical Center and the other technical centers would be that you already have a group of kids that are in that trade, in that field avenue, where it's going to be much easier to get them interested. It's been a lot of work, and I continue to work with it. The YP committee helps, and it's going to be interesting to see how it moves forward, especially in 2023, once kind of things have calmed down and the new school year starts. That's where I'm at with that. So to all the attendees, know that as a YP committee, we're working on these things. We know this is a huge issue, and we're doing our best to create programs like this to keep our profession alive. So thank you, Ashley, for giving me a minute there.
Nice work, Keith.
Well, thank you. You've put a lot of time and effort into it, and I think it's definitely something that going forward, it's a extremely viable option of, something that could get people directly into the workforce, primarily because, as you said, they're purpose built for what we do. So it's a wonderful program that you're working on.
Thank you. I just want to quickly touch on a couple schools. So we all know about Ranger. Most of us know about Ranger School with Alfred. But like Jason said, there's no reason these people can't go out of state. We don't want them to leave. We all know that. But I just did some quick research the other day of some ABET accredited programs that are highly regarded. Top 4, Penn State, they have an ABET accredited program. New Jersey Institute of Technology has a surveying program. University of Florida has a surveying program. Those are all bachelor's degrees, so 4-year degrees. University of Akron, Ohio has an Associate of Applied Science degree, so your 2-year degree. And then they also have a bachelor's program. So I think a part of the solution to our problem of this is we always have a conversation about Alfred. We always have a conversation about Rainier School, but just allowing these people to know that it's okay to go out of state. Just come back. We want you to come back. But there are options there. If you don't want to stay in New York State for school, there are options throughout the country that you can go to an ABET accredited school to work towards that 4-year degree or 2-year degree in that chart there. So the options are there. So when you see associate members at your regional, or you see a young person in a high school and they're thinking about going to school, it would behoove you to have that conversation and say, hey, there are other options. And especially if you're just tired of living in New York for a little bit and you want to get out and explore the world and travel and do different things, there are other opportunities there from an education standpoint that will be ABET accredited and work towards your license, and not having to be in New York State if you so choose. So it's just, those are the top 4 that I saw, and also I've heard people talk about within our community. So just know there are options there. There are obviously Alfred and Rainier School are great options, but there is other opportunities out of state there.
And in addition to education out of state, there's what I did. I even tested. I took my fundamentals of surveying out of state, because not all state legislation is the same, but the fundamentals of surveying and the principles of practice of surveying are national exams. So if you go out of state for your education, or even if you don't, you may consider going out of state to apply and sit for the interim licensure status, which is what I did. So that's another thing to kind of throw in there.
Yeah, very good point, Jackie. I have some friends that went to Pennsylvania and took their FS because they could do that right out of a 2-year degree. And I think I have 2 people that from Rainier School that went down and did that. So there are other opportunities. There's other avenues. You don't have to follow an exact path to this. There's not an exact science of where you have to go and exactly what you have to do. Just knowing and talking to people and making sure that these people, the young people or the people changing careers, know that there are options out there. Online education, that's another one too. I know that there's at least, what was it, University of Maine that has an online program that you can get a bachelor's of science all online for land surveying. The only thing I'll tell you is it's expensive. But if that's your only option and you don't have the resources to uproot everything and move or go to Rainier School or Alfred, that there are options there. You can do online education. I only know of the one at University of Maine. I don't know if there's more. That's the only one that I've come across in the last few years that will offer a bachelor's degree. But the opportunities are there as long as you take it and you know about it. That's the biggest thing, is I've been in here since 2016. And in the last year, I just learned that the University of Maine had an online opportunity there. So I would ask everyone here and everyone attending to just, when you do go to those school visits or you do have any form of outreach, just make sure these people know that there are options and that they don't have to just go to Rainier School, or they just have to go to Alfred. And just making sure that when we do educate the public and we educate the students, that we do provide that information, that there are so many different avenues and opportunities for education towards licensure, or if you just want to be in land surveying.
I would love to comment on the online education option. as something that really makes sense in the field of land surveying if you intend to pursue licensure, because you really need to learn how to study off hours. You're not going to quit your full-time job while you're preparing for those licensing exams, and they require diligent, regular, committed study, or you're not going to pass, period. And I think if you have built that muscle by pursuing the online degree as part of your licensure track, I think it's going to be a lot easier for you to draw upon that while you're preparing to actually sit for your exams, because you already know what it's like to take a night class, to do your assignments after hours when you're tired, to say, sorry, friends, can't go out this weekend. I'm going to be here buckling down. So that, I think, to me is a big selling point for those online options. And also the fact that you don't need to uproot your life and move to Akron, Ohio to get your 4-year degree. You can do it while you're working a job that you're happy with. And especially if you have roots in an area, you can kind of keep those roots tended while pursuing the degree that you're going to need for licensure.
Yeah, absolutely. And I apologize, I forgot to mention this earlier. Of the possibility, I know it might sound crazy, of a company paying for or having a portion of the education paid through the company. It's something I've thought about a lot in the last year or so, as I have a new employee coming in that wants to go back to school, has interest in getting licensed. But it's a big financial burden. I have a lot of friends that their companies paid for their MBA or a PhD to further their education. And of course, they always had a contract where if they did pay for the education, they had to stay on with the company for X amount of years. I think that's a conversation that we may be having moving forward, especially as these new education laws have come into place. To keep the growth there, to get more people involved and getting more people licensed. I don't know if it's the perfect answer to a solution of people being able to go to school, but I think it's a conversation that I would like to have with other company owners, with other businesses, and just see if this is something that we should pursue as professions or professionals. Jason, we spoke a little bit about this before on camera. Can you elaborate a little bit on your perspective?
Yeah, it's a new concept for us. There's 75 of us here at GDB, all doing surveying and mapping. And of course, you want to support all your employees the best you can. If there's professional development that makes them better at their job, we provide it. We want them to know that we support them, and when we support them, they support us. And there's, you have to have that relationship in place. But okay, so for the new person who comes in May 2022, a few years down the road, they're interested in licensure and they find out, oh crap, I can't get my license, I don't have a degree. I think we're gonna have to start planning for things like this. While also, you want to be able to support your employees, provide flexible employment, lucrative employment, but we also want them to take some responsibility for getting their own education. So that's something we're gonna have to play with. Like I said, I went all experience, and it started with volunteering to do title surveys on the weekends for free. And when I started studying for my exams, I took all 3 exams in 48 hours, and it was a lot of work. I worked every Saturday doing trig because I'm old and I had forgotten how to do it about the time I was studying for my exams. 6 months of math every Saturday, and I was fortunate I had a wife who was fine with me working every Saturday, taking care of my kids, and knowing I was making an investment in myself. But I certainly wasn't asking the company, hey, can you pay for the hours I spent on Saturday to study for my tests? I think in the long run, they looked at me as someone who was dedicated, and they knew I was in it for the long haul, and that provided benefits to me when I was moving up the chain here. So I don't know, we're gonna have to decide, for the right person in the right seat, sure, anything is possible. I don't see us offering tuition reimbursement. We're a big company. It's still something we can't it becomes a financial burden for the company. I understand it's a financial burden for the individual, but for the company as well to say like, oh, we're going to send everyone who wants to get licensed to college for 2 to 4 years. I don't know. Maybe the right college class, if they're working towards that 15 credits. Hey, I have it. You hired me. I have a degree in math, but I need these 15 credits. I think that's probably more likely. We have a program down here in New York City too that helps get kids on the path towards CST at City College, and I think those are pretty good programs for, not everyone enters this profession who wants to be licensed. The CST track, you go through like CST 1 or 2 before it kind of breaks off, and I have plenty of employees here who they do not want to be inside. They don't want to see fluorescent lights, snow or rain. They're like, give me a day off or let me go outside. And maybe their back's gonna start hurting one day and they say, oh crap, I wish I got licensed, I come inside. But there's plenty of them that they don't, that's not their thing. And that doesn't make them any less valuable than a licensed surveyor because they're choosing to focus on things outside the boundary world. So as a company, we just try to look at everyone's individual situation and how they fit into this big puzzle of ours, finding the right people in the right seats to satisfy all of our clients' needs and, do the best by them. But we're going to have to think long and hard about helping people overcome this burden. Hey, I just got into the profession. Now I need at least 15 credits in surveying. How are we going to do that?
Thank you, Jason. I appreciate that perspective. I apologize, Ashley, if we've spent a lot of time. I would like to move into diversity in land surveying. We all know what it's like to walk into the conference room and look around the room and not see many different faces. Ashley's been working in the last couple years, Ashley, right? Of how are we going to grow diversity in our community? Ashley, do you want to touch on a little bit of what you've been working on so far and where you see it moving forward?
Yeah, absolutely. For the last couple of years, have been holding a panel for either diversity or specifically women in the profession of land surveying. And I definitely think that things like that, having a recorded conversation where you can take it and then you can post it onto social media and then have it out to the general public is certainly a good avenue to getting the word out about it. But definitely we're learning more about how to reach different cultures or different ethnic groups the more that we dig into it. So we've had a lot of good suggestions the last 2 years about how to get the word out there about land surveying. Recently, even at the summit, we had 2 very good ideas, whether it be actually putting multiple languages on the NYSAPLS page, so people from different backgrounds can fully understand what we're all about and have access to the resources just like everybody else would. And also an idea that came from that summit would be to advertise in ethnic or diverse publications. So if you're looking for a if you're looking to hire people from a diverse background, actually go to like a newspaper or something and put an ad in their language in the newspaper. It's certainly a more focused approach to it, and certainly if you don't understand the language but you're advertising it in it, you're going to get people that you don't understand. So it might be something that has to be workshopped more, but it's certainly something that in the last 2 to 3 years that we've been working on and growing. And I definitely see our outreach making a difference in at least getting people in. I know our associate numbers at NYSAPLS has increased. So I'd like to think that we're making an impact. I don't know the diversity breakdown, but just putting the profession out there certainly has allowed it to grow more. It's definitely a benefit to a company to hire from a diverse background. It's if the person that you've hired on can understand where they come from, their culture, it allows you to put out a better product. You can serve the community that you're looking to do that much better if you have a better understanding of it.
Thank you, Ashley. I think an important part of this is to understand that if a company does have a more diverse group of people working with them, that they may be able to relate with their clients a little bit better. You know, we all know that the field crew goes out and they may knock on a door to do a mortgage or title survey. And somebody may answer the door that doesn't speak English well, that may not come back from the same background. But to have that better connection with the clientele by having a more diverse group of people at the office or in your field crew may just make you a little bit more relevant in your community. And it may also build a little bit of trust in the surveyor quicker, coming from a more similar background when you're working with a client, or you know, directly face to face, or with a different company or a municipality. I really think that having some relevance makes a difference, and being able to just have common backgrounds, to have that little bit of a better connection with the clients, really helps build relationships that may go beyond just a title survey. You know, you might come across a person that you have similar cultural backgrounds or similar upbringing, or you don't have that language barrier, that can build a relationship within the community that can provide a lot of work for many years, just because you might have something in common. That's happened in our company. I work with the Mennonite community within my area. I'm the only surveyor that I know that works with our Mennonite community. They're a different group of people. They have different beliefs. I've connected with those people. And from that, we now get a huge amount of work from just that Mennonite community in our county. We're the only engineering firm that I know of that works with the Mennonite community. And that's only because I understood their background and I understood their culture, and we made a connection. So taking what Ashley's done and building on that, and having diverse companies and people that work for you, it can be really rewarding to not only yourself to build relationships, but to build better relationships with the community. Just being have that diversity is important. And with that, I think your company will grow. You as an individual will grow to learn and better understand all the different people within your community, even if it's almost all the same up here, like where I live. But like, I know where Jason lives, he's told me multiple times that he sees many different walks of life, people from different backgrounds and cultures, and just understanding their backgrounds will allow us as professionals to just build those relationships, and show these people what we do and that we are professionals, and that's what they should expect.
And I will add to that, when I think of diversity, the very first thing, obviously, it would be either race or ethnicity. But there are other diverse groups out there. When I did my diversity summit, I didn't want to just do a very basic race or ethnicity type thing. So I had asked actually Jason Peterson, as a retired veteran, to come on board, because they are a diverse group of people. And they have a specific skill set that they can offer to the company. I also wanted to, but I wasn't able to, ask a disabled person to come on and talk about their experience in land surveying. I think the most interesting thing about land surveying is how diverse the actual profession is. So we have job opportunities available to every walk of life, every person who wants to join us, whoever shows an interest. You can't just say, you know, well, we can't hire you because you wouldn't be able to work in the field. If they express an interest, somebody with a disability is more than capable of reading a deed or drawing a map. So we've got a spot for everybody, and I think this profession really has a lot to offer.
Yeah, and to further tie that in with solutions to our complaining, if a complaint is that the decline in our profession is measured strictly in persons, in numbers of professionals or aspiring professionals, and we're only welcoming or attractive to one cross section of humanity, I mean, just think about how much you're missing, both in the depth and breadth of the people who make up the family that is your company, and also the profession as a whole, just being able to attract more people.
Yeah, that's a really good point, Jackie. That's a really good perspective. So I hadn't thought about it that way. So thank you. There's a lot to it, and also, like Ashley said, we are diverse in what we are able to do, whether you're in the office or whether you're in the field. So we have room for everyone. When I think of diversity, I think about race, I think about religion, I think about culture, and just being open to everything. And Jason, I'm sure you've seen that people from those different backgrounds can bring so much different value to your company and having different perspectives based on their diversity and how that can make you stronger as a company.
Oh, for sure. And we have some hires recently on our leadership team that they're not diverse in the way you think, but they're diverse business-wise. They come from companies that were much larger. Christine and I and my partner came from a small company, and just the concept of other people's perspectives coming to solve a problem, it's so much more effective than 10 old white guys like myself staring at a problem. You're going to come up with the same solution. And when you have that diverse background, whatever it may be, you've got people have different experiences, and they say, no, I've seen this before. This is how we should do it. And it's eye-opening. Otherwise, you're in your own little echo chamber. And I think it's really important. And I don't know if anyone in any profession does enough to do it. You walk into any of our conferences, or I was just at a function in New York City yesterday for a different professional organization, but still in the AEC community. And it is a sea of ugly gray suits. And it's amazing. I don't know when I went to engineering school, it was very diverse background. I really thought so. I'm just not seeing that professionally here. So we've got to do what we can. And I do think maybe the solution is the same thing with our dwindling numbers. You've got to get into these high schools early. When I grew up, it was very much like, oh, math and science is for boys. And I have a 12-year-old daughter. I hope that stigma is gone and we can encourage people to do whatever the hell they want. But it's got to start early. Otherwise, people aren't going to find themselves into these wonderful professions.
Absolutely. The idea of the different ideas coming from two different company mindsets reminds me to say to everybody out in the audience that if you have any ideas that you just don't know what to do with, if you're sitting on something that you haven't thought about, or you have thought about, excuse me, but you don't know how to implement it or anything like that, feel free to reach out to our committee, any committee, because we come up with a lot of ideas on our own, but sometimes somebody will come up with something that's a fantastic idea that just none of us were able to think up and then take forward. So please reach out, and if you have any questions or anything along those lines, feel free to contact us or your regionals, and they'll bring it to NYSAPLS.
Yeah, very good point, Ashley. Yeah, all of our information is on the NYSAPLS website. I know my phone number and email is up there. If you guys in the audience or anyone in your community, regional, your company, if they ever have any questions, concerns, suggestions, ideas, whatever it is, feel free to reach out. I love talking to associate members. I love talking to people that are just getting into the profession. Within just this committee, we have a diverse age group and backgrounds of perspectives, and like Jason going the all experience. I've gone through different education. We all have different experiences that we can help with a lot of different situations, and just kind of be that sounding board for ideas, like Ashley said. So I think we're about 5 minutes over time here. I just want to say thank you again for everyone attending. Thank you, Jason and Ashley and Jackie, for being part of today's discussion. It's really been fun. I think we've accomplished what we wanted to do with today's webcast, to really talk about some solutions to our complaining within our community. Thank you everyone for attending and taking the time out of your busy day. And I hope everyone has a great Friday, great weekend. Enjoy the really hot weather. It's going to be 90, and I don't have a pool. So thank you everyone again. It's been fun.
I was muted, sorry. Thank you, guys. Before we sign off, I'd like to thank everyone once again for joining us today, and a big thank you to our Young Professionals Committee for their time and dedication. A short evaluation will be sent this afternoon, so please take the time to fill it out to provide feedback to the YP Committee. Thank you all for attending, and have a great weekend. Bye.